I've been invited to the home of one of our best-loved actors, a star of stage and screen for nearly 7 decades, and a multiple BAFTA and Oscar winner. Dame Judi Dench has spent her career bringing to life a hugely diverse array of characters.
I think you're a sexist, misogynist dinosaur.
The glamour. Just behind us stands her Academy Award for a scene-stealing performance as Elizabeth I in John Madden's Shakespeare in Love.
I know something of a woman and a man's profession. Yes, by God, I do know about that.
But her love for Shakespeare began when she was a girl and led to her becoming one of the nation's greatest classical actors, a star of the National Theatre, the Old Vic and the RSC.
Damn spot out, I say.
Today I'm going to be hearing how Shakespeare has remained centre stage throughout her life.
And the sun comes out.
And the sun comes out. That's good.
Judi Dench, welcome to This Cultural Life.
Thank you, John.
You were born in 1934 and grew up in York. Set the scene for us. What was family life like?
My father was a doctor, and I had 2 brothers older than me. And, of course, at that time, no television, nothing like that. So we all had bikes, and we made our own entertainment. My second brother, Jeff, only ever wanted to be an actor. My oldest brother wanted to be a doctor, like Dad, and I wanted to be a designer, scenic designer. That's what I set out to be.
From a young age?
From quite a young age, because we were taken to the theatre a lot. You know, we were taken to, I remember once going to see Cuckoo in the Nest, and I laughed. So this couple was in bed, and suddenly a chest at the end of the bed opened, and a man stood up in vest and pants, and I was sick. I laughed so much I was sick. My mother had to take me home. But the wonderful thing is that I was taken back a couple of nights later to see what happened. And my pa used to be able to, he could recite the whole of Hiawatha. And my Jeff, my brother, as I said, who wanted to be an actor, used to, he suddenly would launch into a huge... For once upon a raw and gusty day, the troubled tide were chafing with her shores, Caesar says to me, darest thou now, Cassius, now leap in with me into this angry flood and swim to yonder point. And we'd go, oh dear, we'd be going, but it would go on for 5 minutes.
Jeff actually went to the RSC,
He certainly did.
Did he lead the way for you in that way?
Well, I expect he certainly did. But I was taken to Stratford by my parents again in 1953, I think.
And that would have been the very first Shakespeare that you saw?
No. Oh, no, I'd seen Shakespeare a long, long time ago when my brother Peter played Duncan at St. Peter's School.
Macbeth.
And I was taken, yeah. And he walked in and said, what bloody man is that? And I thought, this is for me. This is absolutely for me. And then we went to Stratford when I was still bent on being a designer and saw Michael Redgrave as Lear. And it was the most incredible set, which was a great, huge, flat circle. And in the middle was a pile of stones which turned so that they could be a cave or a throne or anything else. So nobody had to come in with anything. And the action was completely continuous. And that's when something about designing shut down in me. I just remember looking at this set and thinking, never in my wildest dreams would I be able to think of something like that.
And you thought from that moment that acting, rather than designing, that's the road you wanted to take?
I don't suppose I thought it as consciously as that. I don't suppose it was an overnight thing. I suppose it was a gradual thing. I thought, well, I'll try and get to the Central School, like Jeff. And I did.
And so your father, medical man, interested in the theatre. Were your parents involved in Amdram as well?
Yes, they were. The settlement players they were part of. My ma used to make costumes and things. They decided to resurrect the miracle plays, the mystery plays in York.
Yes.
So we were cast, can't believe it, as angels. 6 of us, I think, were angels in the first lot of mystery plays.
Was that your first time on stage then?
No, because I played a snail. I played a snail. That's in my prep school. I had an enormous shell, which I was under. And when all our parents came, I stood up. And that was not part of the play, of the piece. I can just remember this teacher at the side saying, "Get down, Judith," she said, in the middle of it. You see, my first notice.
Improvising there?
Yes.
Extemporising the role of the snail?
Not behaving properly.
Because you had no lines, I guess, did you?
No lines, no. Just a lot of moves, you know.
You made your professional debut soon after leaving drama school.
Yes, just after I left Central, and just before I was going to the Vic. And I knew that I'd been cast as Ophelia, and I wasn't allowed to tell anybody.
In Hamlet, in 1957, at the Old Vic. Do you have memories of your first night, of opening night in Hamlet?
Fear. No. I remember memories of my second night because the critics weren't kind to me. But what was so wonderful is that Michael Benthall, who ran the Vic, said to me, I'm going to keep you in the company, he said. And he said, you'll play other parts and you'll understudy all the time. And that way you'll learn.
What did you learn from that experience? You said that the critics were pretty harsh.
They were. Because they were very cross that, you know, that the National had chosen somebody who wasn't known and a newcomer to play Ophelia. But I learnt because it wasn't just 6 weeks, it was a year. So if you don't learn something in that time, you've had it, really. Give up.
As Ophelia descends into madness, she sings to herself. And although you're not known primarily as a singer, it was about 10 years after you made your debut in Hamlet that you were cast as Sally Bowles in the very first London production of Cabaret, directed by Hal Prince. Were you surprised to get that part?
You bet I was surprised. I thought it was a joke. And I can remember going and auditioning for him and singing from the wings because I wouldn't come out on stage for a bit. But he lured me out.
What were you singing? Can you remember?
I think I sang Happy Birthday to You. I just learnt everything about how to kind of present myself in that musical.
Hush up, don't tell Mama. Shush up, don't tell Mama. Don't tell Mama. Whatever you do, if you had a secret, you bet I could keep it. I would never tell on you.
You took on many roles throughout the 1970s, and I think one of the greatest roles would have been in Macbeth with Ian McKellen.
The Other Place, which is just a shed then. It's a theatre now, but it was just a shed. I always said that the sound was by God because there was an enormous gust of wind under the door during the sleepwalking, and all I had was a candle. And the candle kind of was very, very helpful. Candle did a lot of the acting for me during the sleepwalking.
Here's the smell of the blood. Still! All the perfumes of Arabia will not sweeten this little hand.
It was so exciting there because, you know, the audience was as near as you are. So you had to be on the ball a bit.
This is regarded as a landmark production now, directed by Trevor Nunn and Ian McKellen as Macbeth. How much, when you take on a role like that, are you setting out to give a new, fresh interpretation of
No, I think that
Lady
would
Macbeth?
be fatal. You have to just think, I'm going to play this to the best of my ability, with the best of my understanding. And of course, with Trevor and with Ian and with everybody else in the cast, it's like a recipe. It's not a single, you're not out on your own.
I've given suck, and know how tender 'tis to love the babe that milks me. I would, while it was smiling in my face, have plucked my nipple from its boneless gums and dashed the brains out, had I so sworn as you have done to this.
If we should fail.
We fail. But screw your courage to the sticking place, and we'll not fail.
How were the rehearsals for that?
Very, very funny. And Trevor would tell you this, but I remember once walking back with him from the other place, and we were very down about it. And I said, well, I don't know that it's going to work. And that minute I fell off the pavement. Because you would remember that if you were to ask him. But it did come together.
Yeah.
We used to have an adorable man, called a vicar called Neville Boundy, and he used to come, he came 2 or 3 times, and he used to sit there with a crucifix, and he used to hold it up towards us. He thought real evil was going on.
What, sorry, in rehearsals or in the performance?
In performance.
Oh, in the performance, right, okay.
Oh, certainly not. Get out.
At what point, given that that is now regarded as one of the great productions and an amazing performance by you, at what point do you know? Does it come together in rehearsals?
You don't
do you have
know that.
Until the run starts?
Oh, until the run finishes.
Really?
You don't know it. There are people I expect who came to that who didn't like it very much. I mean, there might have been some people who came and said, I couldn't see a thing because it was so dark. If I went to that, I wouldn't be able to see at all. I'm hopeless because I can't see anything now anyway. So it would be a disaster for me.
It's such an intimate space, so you must be really very vividly aware of reactions.
You are.
Reactions to
and they're
a very...
sitting where you are.
Right, yeah.
Because one night I was sitting, kneeling at Ian's feet, and he said, you know that line, light thickens and the crow makes wing to the rooky wood. He said, light thickens and the crow makes wing to the rooky nook. And I'm never very much in control of myself. But I laughed and laughed. I can remember thinking, why not? She's having hysteria at this time. She's gone to pieces. So I had a bit of a laugh and fell over a bit. I was kneeling at his feet. Rookie Nook is very, very funny.
Did you cover it then? Do you think people
No,
saw
I turned it into some kind of hysteria. Shouldn't think I'd fooled pussy. I don't know.
But that must be very difficult, though. I mean, having that reaction and knowing that people are seeing every twitch of your face, to playing at, I don't know, the Olivier or somewhere, a big space. It must change.
Changes all the time.
The performance.
Changes all the time. Because if you have a good night, it's completely fatal to think the next night, oh, I must do it like that. No, that never works like that. You've got to rethink it, I think. When we did Antony and Cleopatra at the National, we did 100 performances, and I knew that there was a laugh in a line that Cleopatra said, and I tried for 99 performances to get the laugh, and on the 100th, I got the laugh.
I'm going to come back to Antony and Cleopatra. You'd already played Lady Macbeth, hadn't you? I think 10, 12 years earlier, in
Africa,
a tour
West
of West
Africa.
African countries.
Yes. We did
Where did you go? Ghana, Sierra Leone?
Sierra Leone, and Nigeria. And we were the very, very first lot to go.
And that was what, British Council?
British Council.
Right.
The British Council said, would we go? Because Macbeth, Twelfth Night, and Arms and the Man were the set books for these young people, the children in Nigeria, Ghana, and Sierra Leone. Would we go and perform them? It was an experience I'll never, ever, ever forget. Ever. Everything that rhymed made everybody laugh a lot. So the Thane of Five had a wife, used to bring the house down. Absolutely. Oh, God.
But that sort of performance, that sort of tour, taking it, as you say, to the people, I mean, it must give you a different insight into the power and
Of Shakespeare.
the potential of Shakespeare.
You bet. You bet. Nkrumah was a political prisoner at the time. We played in the grounds of the palace to him.
In Ghana.
Yeah.
So did that give that political undercurrent that was happening at the time?
It was.
Did that give that play a different kind of meaning?
Well, it
Macbeth?
must have done to the people. May have done to the people watching.
Yeah. Is that something that's important for you in whichever decade that you're performing Shakespeare, that it is malleable in a way, that it can be adapted for the times to reflect?
Well, I don't think it
political
should be
move.
adapted. It's what it does to the person watching, isn't it? It's a reference, perhaps. But I mean, you know, he knew absolutely everything, as far as I'm concerned, Shakespeare, about every condition. And therefore, that's why the plays have gone on for so long, because so many things mean different things to different people. And as well as that, all the emotions mean different things to people. And he was able to somehow say it in a way that we use today, colloquially. We don't know that we do it so often, I think.
Just occurred to me, I've said the word Macbeth several times in your house. That's okay with you?
Oh,
is
yes,
it?
it's not a theatre.
No, so is it just, it is just the theatre? You wouldn't say Macbeth in the theatre?
I wouldn't say Macbeth. I wouldn't mention that play if I was doing another play in a theatre at the moment. If this is a theatre and I was doing The Importance of Being Earnest, you can say Macbeth as much as you like. If I was playing Macbeth in Macbeth tonight, then you shouldn't. Well, you shouldn't know. What am I saying? You shouldn't mention it in the theatre at all.
At all? I was going to
That's
say.
rubbish, just what I've said.
I got once sent out of a theatre by Simon Russell Beale for saying Macbeth. Macbeth wasn't playing in that theatre.
If you say it in a dressing room and you're not playing it, you have to go out and shut the door, and
walk
then you
round the
have to
theatre
turn
or something.
around and knock at the door and be asked to come in again.
That's right.
I don't know if people do that anymore.
Simon Russell Beale does.
And me. That's two of us.
The next role that I'd like to talk about is another powerful, tragic woman, Cleopatra, in Antony and Cleopatra. You played opposite Anthony Hopkins in
I did.
Peter Hall-directed production at the National Theatre in 1987. I've read that you questioned Peter Hall's judgment when he cast you as
I did.
Cleopatra. What was your worry?
I said, well, you get a lot of laughs. She's meant to be a very, very tall girl, I said. Queen of Egypt. Not quite right.
What about her character? We're talking about Lady Macbeth, very dark role there. She's a woman possessed. But Cleopatra, you have that really
She's
amazing...
a woman possessed. She's a woman who is passionate about her husband. And what he wants, she wants for him. That's what I think about Lady Macbeth.
And similarly, Cleopatra is deeply in love as well and driven by a great sense of sexual passion with Antony. But
Yeah, I can remember Peter saying to us, he said, you get this great build-up about the two of them at the very beginning of the play, which you do. I mean, they talk about them, and then in come two shits, he said, I remember him saying to us, who behave very, very badly. And we used to roll all over the stage and be all over each other and behave extremely badly.
Because she's a comic and playful character in a way. There are so many different facets to
Yes.
her, the infinite variety.
Infinite variety. Well, more difficult to play.
Yes. Difficult, that's what I'm trying to get at. And,
Difficult, certainly.
and also because she's willful, she's difficult, she's a real pain at times, isn't she?
Yeah.
How much sympathy do you have to have for her?
Oh, you ask some very hard questions. I've suddenly remembered that you do. Now, you just have to understand it and be able to make the audience understand. It's not a question of me having sympathy with it. It's a question of me showing the audience that is the person.
Where is the fellow?
Copperfield to come.
Go to. Come hither, sir.
Good Majesty, Herod of Jury dare not look upon you, but when you are well pleased.
That Herod's head I'll have.
But how, when Antony is gone, through whom I might command it? There's gold for thee.
Tell me about working with Anthony Hopkins as Anthony.
He was wonderful and very, very unexpected. You never knew which way he was going to jump. And that was important to that relationship between the two of them.
Mm.
But then, as his death, we were up at the monument and he would lie. And he would die, and he would say to me, and now you do Act 5, and I'm going to have a nice cup of tea.
What, he would whisper that
And
to
that's
you?
true, yes.
Really?
Now I'll go and have a nice cup of tea while you do Act 5, right?
Was that the laughter that you were referring to when we were talking about Macbeth? The giggling scene, the corpsing scene?
The corpse. You must understand that corpsing is also to do with nerves. Being very tense and then something going wrong. I mean, I've got into terrible trouble for laughing. Because, you wind yourself and wind yourself, wind yourself, wind yourself, wind yourself. And so if something slightly something unravels a bit, usually in tragedies, hardly ever in comedies.
Let me just take you back to Cleopatra, Antony Cleopatra in 1987, directed by Peter Hall, who was running the National Theatre at the time, of course, wasn't he? So how would you characterise him as a director?
Oh, gosh, he used to stand at a lectern with a script so that he would slightly beat it out so that you absolutely knew the rhythm that it should be. And I remember the death of Cleopatra. Our royal lady's dead, dead, dead. Our royal lady's murdered. And we, the three of us, were there one day rehearsing, and it went on for a very long time. We got on to the last bit, that royal lady's dead. There was a pause. Peter said, "Thank Christ," he said. But it was just, he was...
Stickler for the meter, then?
It's the rhythm of it. They're not written that way for a willful reason. They're written that way because you must obey the rhythm of the line. It's like the beating of your heart. That's why I love it so much.
Tell me something about learning parts. Cleopatra itself is a lot of lines to learn. Was there a particular way of committing it to memory? Did you have a particular method?
No, it's just that it is the beating of your heart. It's, if you've missed something out because you hear that you've missed it out. So that's very helpful.
That rhythm?
Yes.
The Peter Hall?
That's right. My father had a daughter loved a man. As it might be, were I a woman, I should your lordship. If you once kind of hear the rhythm of it, and if you obey it, it makes sense. If you go against it, it doesn't necessarily make sense. Shakespeare hasn't ever really been a problem to me to learn.
And you've played dozens of Shakespearean roles, and I would have thought thousands of performances. Do they then sit there?
I could do the whole of Twelfth Night for you, and the whole of The Dream now, if you want.
Really? I think.
Got the time.
The last time you were on stage performing in a Shakespeare play was The Winter's Tale in 2015, directed by Kenneth Branagh, which I guess was almost 60 years after your Shakespearean debut. When you played Ophelia in Hamlet, I said, what was that like? You said, fear, fear. Think back a few years to 2015. What does experience do for first night nerves?
Well, it doesn't do anything. You're still nervous. You still feel you have an enormous responsibility. But I suppose experience has taught me that there's more to worry about. Everybody's nervous, and it's not your job to transmit it, nerves, to anybody, to the rest of the company in any way. So just get on and do it properly, or better, and the next night do it better than that.
And Kenneth Branagh on stage with you playing...
Leontes.
So how was it being directed by your co-star?
Oh, Ken, I know him so well. When we did Ghosts, first thing we did together.
Ibsen.
We were sent out of the studio for laughing. That was Mike Gambon's fault. If you get on very well with somebody, it's very easy because you can suddenly say, I don't understand this bit, or you can, And he has a wonderful sense of humour. God, it's important.
What studied torments tyrant hast for me? What wheels, racks, fires, what flaying and boiling in leads and oils? What old or newer torture must I receive, whose every word deserves to hear of thy most worst? Thy tyrannies, together working with thy jealousies, oh, think what they have done, and then run mad indeed, stark mad! For all thy bygone fooleries were but spices of it.
It must have been quite challenging. I saw that performance that you gave in A Winter's Tale, and you were playing Paulina and also Time.
Yes.
And Time being the sort of the kind of note to the audience that
Yes.
a lot of time
Just
has passed.
reminding you, in case you dropped off in the first
Yeah.
bit, this is what's happened.
What was known at the time was that your eyesight was degenerating even then. And I remember seeing that performance and thinking, there's such a power and a clarity to your delivery and a presence on the stage. Was it, how difficult was it already then to be on stage?
Oh, not that difficult, because it was all flat. If it had been a flight of stairs, you might have had a different idea. Now, I do a show with Charles Brandreth, which we've been doing for a while, and he does a very kind thing. I've never actually said anything about it, but now, because he announces and I have to walk on, and he has a wonderful mat, which is kind of black and white, looks like a huge zebra lying on the ground. But I'm like a plane coming into land. I make for the mat. I can see that. X marks the spot. There's the mat. Now I know I'm in safe ground.
Mm. And for those who don't know, it's macular degeneration, isn't it?
Yeah. My mother had it.
Mm.
It's all right. I can't see to read anymore. So that's tricky because I have to learn. Anything I have to learn now is tricky.
Mm.
I will think up a new way of doing it.
So how do you learn the lines now, then? You get somebody to read them out to you?
Well, I haven't had to do it since my eyes have been this bad. And I will. I'll try. I'll find a way.
What's the big part coming up, then? Or any part?
Well, am I going to tell you that, John?
Well, that's why I asked, to see whether you would.
Certainly not.
Do you think that that performance in The Winter's Tale, do you think that is possibly the last time we'll see you in Shakespeare on stage?
God, I wouldn't like to think that. Probably is, but I'm not going to say that. You never know, do you? I've never been in Othello. That would have been nice at some point.
Which of the many roles that you've played over the years, the Shakespearean roles I'm talking about, when were you happiest on the stage doing Shakespeare? There must be a moment lodged in your
Never
brain.
not been.
Really?
Never not been. I mean, there are plays you like more.
Well, it's going to be there must be some plays that you don't particularly like.
I don't like The Merchant of Venice as a play. And Michael and I, when we were first married at Stratford, he played Bassanio and I played Portia. I didn't like that. I still don't like that play. They all behave so badly. And there's not much excuse for any of them.
When you were young actors starting out, you and your late husband, Michael Williams, used to refer to Shakespeare as the man who pays the rent.
Yes, we called him that. Michael was in one company, I was in the other, and Shakespeare was the person who we were playing all the time. And so he was very much the man who paid the rent.
What is he now to you?
The man who pays the rent, probably. Well, he's never been less than that. Very, very, very important. He's referred to every day in my life, I think, probably. And I think he's referred to in most of our days without us knowing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Heaven.
Judi Dench, thank you so much for sharing your cultural life with us.
Not very cultural. Thank you, John.
Quite a life, though.
Thank you.